Welcome back to the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog, where we discuss, examine, and celebrate all things college football, but with a special emphasis on our beloved black and gold squads of the Iowa Hawkeyes and
MIZ.
ZOU, the Missouri Tigers. Welcome back. I'm your host, Blair Parks. Holla at you, boy. And once again, I am joined by my former co-host, but never partner, the one, the only, the living, breathing, walking, talking Venus de Milo, and Missouri fan number one, Charlie Oswalt. Charlie, how you doing today, buddy?
Doing good, man. I'm doing real good. Yourself?
I'm doing terrific.
Good.
Doing terrific.
Good.
What a time to be alive.
Oh, man.
Spring is here.
Gotta love springtime.
It's a great time to be a sports fan, which I'll get to that here in a little bit. But it's great to have you back. I know you've been kind of on a little hiatus, working for the network, the big timer here. I know the Black and Gold family has missed you. I mean, the eye
I've
candy.
missed them as well.
I mean, you make me look so much better than normally. That's great. So it's great to have you back too, to have your insight on today's very special episode. But as I just said, it is a very special episode today. We've got a great episode lined up for you today. And today is going to be all about celebrating all things black and gold. That's right. A little bit later on, stay tuned. We are going to present to you, the Black and Gold family, our Mount Rushmores of Iowa and Missouri athletics, both coaches and athletes, based on our opinions, what these coaches, these athletes, what they were able to accomplish while at Iowa, at Missouri, their lasting impact, but also what they accomplished off the court, off the field, as citizens. How did they represent the institutions moving forward? So very special episode. But getting back to what I said, it's a great time to be a sports fan. I mean, spring, it's like the great awakening right now with everything going on. Right now, it's the opening week of Major League Baseball.
Yes, sir.
I mean, the boys of summer are back. And I'm sorry, I'm going to take the chance to say it. Our Chicago Cubs are 2-1, currently tied for first place. Woo! I'm going to celebrate that because it probably won't happen at all the rest of the year. So I'm going to enjoy it. Even though here in the Show Me State, I'm living in, hostile territory with the Cardinal fans and the few Royal fans that show their faces. But hey, I'm loving that the Cubbies are in first place as of now, 3 games into the season. That's great. So I'm going to celebrate it like it's 1999.
Wow.
Also, NASCAR's in full effect. If that's what trips your trigger, good for you. NHL is in full effect. I believe the playoffs are starting soon. Not right around the corner, but they're getting close. The NBA playoffs start later this week. Our Chicago Bulls are back in the playoffs. What a team. And over the weekend, a tradition like none other, the Masters took place and concluded. Congratulations to Scotty Scheffler.
Yes.
World ranking number 1. Absolutely backed it up down there in Augusta.
And that come down to my opinion, that caddy change.
Oh.
His switch to the caddy, what he did, his career up until that point, it's just ridiculous what he's done since.
I know. I mean, it's crazy. He's having just a dynamite year.
All about that cash flow.
I mean, he's just winning tournament left and right. Dynamite, like J.J. Walker would say, right? And also, recently, March Madness, the NCAA basketball tournament came to a conclusion. I know it's going to be hard for Charlie here and Missouri fans alike. You might want to do the old earmuffs, but congratulations to the Kansas Jayhawks. Got to give credit where credit is due. I know it's tough to stomach. I'm only going to say it once and we can move on.
Bill Self's a cheater.
That's the, maybe for another episode, we can discuss that.
All right. Well, we'll stick with that until now.
and last but certainly not least, icing on the cake, sprinkles on your ice cream, whatever your preference is for dessert. There are college football spring games aplenty. Most of them have wrapped up, but there still are several yet to go. So right there, college football is right around the corner. So what a great time to be a sports fan right now. It's the best time of year, but not quite until college football officially kicks off. But once again, it's great to be back with you. I'm so excited. And before we continue, I need to give a shout out to all of you, the Black and Gold family. Views, subscriptions, likes, shares, everything is up. Our stock is absolutely rising thanks to you. It's been an absolute pleasure to come to you in front of you, giving us and me an outlet to discuss our love for college football in Iowa and Missouri. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for your attention and your time. And we appreciate, as always, any additional likes, subscriptions, rates, shares, and comments. They are always welcome here. We are getting near 50 subscribers. To me, that's like a major milestone.
Absolutely.
I mean, during last football season, we were hovering teens to 20, 25, and here we are getting close to 50. This is great. So thank you for all that you do. But I'm reunited with Charlie like peaches and herb style. Reunited and it feels so good. And it does. Once again, we can discuss who's peaches, who's herb at some point. I don't really know what the difference is other than gender.
I'll be herb.
But let's go ahead and officially start today's episode.
Let's do it.
So before we get to our Mount Rushmores, want to give some shout outs because this today is all about the Black and Golds. First of all, congrats to the Iowa and Missouri Matters, the wrestling teams. A couple weeks ago, their seasons concluded. In Detroit, I believe, is where the NCAAs were this year. Missouri finishes with a 9th place finish overall. I believe that's their 7th consecutive top 10 finish.
Yes, it is.
Great job, Missouri wrestling. Iowa Matters finished 3rd overall at the NCAAs. So once again, great season for both Missouri and Iowa men's wrestling. Well done. You make us proud. Continue it. It's really good to have those programs to count on, to say, you know what, these are just those consistent programs. I mean, even though they're non-rev, I mean, for Iowa, that's probably one of, if not their most consistent program. I mean, easily, Iowa wrestling. Also, shout outs to the Black and Gold women's gymnastics teams. Iowa's season did come to a conclusion. They did reach the NCAA Sweet 16 round. But how they do it in gymnastics, they clump 4 together for the Sweet 16. It's a little bit different, but they did qualify. They made it out of the first round. They did not qualify to advance to the semifinals. So Iowa ends their season going into postseason play. They were ranked number 22. So great season for the Iowa gymnastics team. While Missouri has moved on, they were actually in the same region as Iowa. They did qualify. They advanced to the NCAA semifinals. So their season is still going on. I believe that round is this weekend. And they started postseason play ranked number 11, which is nothing to laugh at because the NCAA the SEC has now become the premier conference for women's gymnastics. So keep it up. Good luck this weekend, Lady Missouri gymnastics team. So there's a couple shout outs for some non-rev sports. So I'm ready. Are you ready to move on to the Mount Rushmores? All right, let's get it. All right. So what we're going to do, Charlie and I discussed that we're going to go ahead and unveil to you our Mount Rushmore of coaches first. Because I think when it comes down to making our lists, and this is what we did. Separately, we each made our top 4 and then an honorable mention to where if there was a 5th president on Mount Rushmore, this would be the person we would add, coach or athlete. So we did not discuss these. We don't know who each of us has picked, but we do have a pretty good idea. And we both believe that we're probably going to be more in agreement with coaches compared to athletes.
Yeah, there's so many athletes to choose from, and it's, there's so many things that keep guys so close together. Yeah. It's like to choose one. I had to go by what, as a sports fan, who stands out to me when I look at these names. And, when I was looking into this as a research, a certain memory popped out. I'm like, oh yeah, that's something great. So it might not be all about stats. It's about what they've done to as a fan following that person, or what they've done in the society, giving back or whatever.
Yeah, and it's really hard to deny what coaches have accomplished.
Yes.
That's a little bit easier to see on paper and in person, but the athletes really just comes down in the eye of the beholder. It's just the opinion based on this. That's why I'm really interested to see what athletes we chose. Yeah. And please feel free, comment, like. If you don't agree with our if you don't agree with our list, feel free, let us know why, or if you do agree, just please keep it adult and mature like. Yep. We absolutely want your feedback on our Mount Rushmore.
Well, and everybody, and back to like I said too, with everybody has their own opinions.
Yes.
As a fan, certain people as a kid growing up really stood out to me, and they might not stand out to somebody else, and there could be somebody that stood out that you or I may not mention. So.
Absolutely. I'm going to grab one thing real quick. I did forget one prop. I have never done this, but hey, it's okay. So let's go ahead and celebrate all things black and gold. A lot of positive vibes today. A lot of positivity. Feel like Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, the good vibrations.
Oh my.
You feel that, baby? I do too. But let's go ahead and celebrate. This town needs an enema. Hands down, everybody has their opinion, but no disrespect to Batman fans or The Dark Knight, great movie, but nothing's better than the original Batman with Michael Keaton. Sorry. This is the way it is. Mic drop on that. Okay, so let's go ahead and start off with our Mount Rushmore of coaches, and the format for this is we're each going to unveil to you and to each other 2 at a time. We'll alternate, and then we will give our honorable mention, and then finish up with the remaining 2. Sound good? Mm-hmm. All right, and being the gentleman that I am, I was raised right. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Pops. I'm going to go ahead and let Charlie unveil his first 2. He is the expert for Missouri, and he kind of looks at me as the expert for Iowa. Even though there is a lot of crossover, I know a lot about Mizzou, he knows a lot about Iowa, but there's just certain insights he can give from a Missouri perspective, like I can from an Iowa, that we just can't match. Mm-hmm. So let's go ahead and get started. Charlie, give me the first 2 of your coaches.
Well, the first one, obviously, it's a no-brainer. It's got to be Norm Stewart.
Norm Stewart.
He is a true son. He played for Mizzou back in the day. He got to come home and coach, and what he did for Mizzou. I remember as a child, this is going to date me a little bit, but the 90s growing up, and you're watching like Anthony Peeler and all these people, and Doug Smith back in the day, and they never would get that actual crossover to the Final Four. But if you look at the stats, he was 634 and 333.
Not
as
bad.
A coach.
Not too shabby old.
He made the 16 tournament 16 times. 8 of those, he's also won 8 regular season conference championships, 6 conference championships, and been to the Elite 8 twice.
Wow.
Sweet 16 3 times.
Yeah, those stats, those accomplishments, they don't lie. That's just clear cut.
I always hoped, because I remember watching, they had a chance to go to the Final Four and against UCLA, and I think it was Ed O'Bannon. No, Ty Sedney with just a couple seconds down, gets the ball, goes in. Nobody wanted to foul him, and goes in, gets the layup the last minute to just end it for them. And that was such a heartbreaker. I was like,
that close.
It was right there.
All right, so Norm Stewart, okay.
And then my second one, this is going to represent for the ladies out there. I know a lot of the women's sports kind of get overlooked a little bit, and we're trying to come to that, but Aaron Earlywine.
Mizzou softball coach. Okay, I'm taking a little note of this as he. Okay, Aaron Earlywine. Okay.
So what he's done is pretty impressive. So he's got 11 consecutive NCAA regional appearances from 2007 to 2017, 8 super regionals from 2008 to 2013, then again in 2015 and 2016. He's been to the World Series 3 times, 2009, 2010, and 2011. 3 times he's had 50-plus win seasons, 9 times 40-plus win seasons. He's got a record of 226 and 104 for 685 average.
Wow.
And in a coaches poll, he had them ranked for 134 consecutive coaches poll in the top 25.
Wow.
It's impressive.
And I didn't know anything about, now is it pronounced Aaron or Aaron?
It's Aaron because it's spelled Ehren.
Yeah,
Aaron.
I had no idea of Coach Earlywine until I did some research. And you're right. I mean, and that person may or may not be on my list, but we'll have to wait and see. Okay? And those numbers, too. I mean, that winning percentage. And being ranked for that many consecutive weeks.
And they have him, slated as the one who kind of put Mizzou softball on the map and making them a powerhouse in a sense. They might not be a powerhouse year in, year out, but they're definitely a team that you have to watch out for. Like if you look at what they've done this year, I know it's different coach, but he's helped put Mizzou softball on the map to the point where recruits can come and make it easier down the road.
He set the foundation.
Yes,
the foundation was set there by Coach Earlywine.
Yep.
And that's something that I'm going to refer to a little bit later on my list, to where right now it's like, what? Why that person compared to maybe the present coach? But you have to give homage and respect to where it began, right? To where who laid the foundation and put everything in place to make it work, right?
And there was other coaches that came along and helped with that, but he was the main one that just clearly was just head and shoulders above everybody else.
Okay.
In the softball.
All right. Excellent. All right. Now we'll go ahead and do this too, kind of on the fly, to where if I say a coach after my first or second two, feel free if you want to agree at that time. That's totally fine. So I'll tell you right now, I absolutely agree with Coach Norm Stewart. That was a slam dunk for me. He was one of the 4 coaches that I had as well. I just remember, watching when they would match up with Iowa. And I know they didn't play Iowa every year, but they would play them frequently enough. And they always played tough games. I mean, Iowa would win a few, but I remember that was really more dominated by Missouri. It's too bad that those teams don't play every year, but I understand it probably is better for recruiting to play Illinois every year because of Chicagoland, Metro St. Louis, Metro East, Kansas City. But it's really a shame that those two teams don't meet on the hardwood anymore like they used to.
Right.
And the one thing I liked about Coach Norm Stewart near the end of his reign there, I mean, he was a guy who was willing to adapt. Yes. I mean, he wasn't a guy, his style, from what I remember, early days was very defensive-minded, slow it down, work the ball, look for a good shot, good defense. But as that new era of pace, run the court, he was able to kind of assimilate that into his coaching style. He wasn't stubborn like some coaches, like the current coach potentially at Iowa football, who is willing to adjust with the times. That's what I liked about Coach Stewart near the end of his tenure.
That's
he was
why
able to do that
on the court.
Yeah, he was able to do that. Excellent. That's a good start. So I did have Norm Stewart. Excellent. Anything else to add about your first two?
No.
Good.
Okay. I'll kind of hear what you got to say.
All right. So my first two up for the Iowa Mount Rushmore of coaches. This one, slam dunk. I thought about starting either first or ending with him, but I got to go with Coach Hayden Fry. I mean, Hayden, to me, that represents everything Iowa football. It just does. I mean, his presence and what he did while at Iowa, he made Iowa football cool, worth rooting for, putting them on the map. I mean, when I look at some of these things that he did, I mean, he took over Iowa football after 17 straight losing seasons. Took over, I mean, and just the miraculous turnaround there in 2 to 3 years. I mean, it's in his time as Iowa football coach, ended up winning 3 Big Ten titles, 3 Rose Bowl berths. And the thing is that really shocks me in this, that before, when they went to their first Rose Bowl, the season of 81 into 82, 13 straight Rose Bowls, the Big Ten was represented by the Big Two, Ohio State or Michigan. To break that cycle at Iowa after 17 straight losing seasons is absolutely something that's storybook, basically. To break that stranglehold by those two teams, to kind of break that mold and stop that cycle. I mean, it really is something that is amazing to think about. Not just his presence, the Texan, he kind of was an outsider, his mustache, his dark sunglasses, his white pants, but he really made Iowa football just, the thing in the area where I grew up. And that's what really brought my family together with Dad and my brother, and I've talked about that on numerous times, previous episodes. I mean, it's all about Coach Hayden Fry. Also, his coaching tree, the legends that
to
were
me
under
that
him.
stands out. You know, if you look at like all those people, you got Bill Snyder, Barry
Yes.
Alvarez, you got all three of the Stoops boys.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous.
Current coach Kirk Ferentz on
Yeah.
the staff too. I
And it's
mean,
just-
his coaching tree.
It's just crazy.
I know. That's one of
Absolutely
those
crazy.
things that you can't see on paper, but it's like, wow, you can't deny that. Just the brilliance to see talent, coaching talent
Your
like
boy
he
Brett
did.
Bielema.
Brett Bielema too. Yeah, Bert. I love Coach Bert at Illinois. He's going to turn them around. But tune in for a later episode to see what I think about the Fighting Illini this upcoming season. Also, too, another thing, the pink locker rooms, the stories about Hayden Fry. Also, one thing that's not very well known is when he coached at SMU in the old Southwest Conference, he was the first head coach to offer an African American a scholarship to play football. And that was, I got his name, Jerry Levias, the first African American scholarship offered in the Southwest Conference. So to, basically break that barrier as well at the time in the early 60s, monumental.
Absolutely.
To show
Absolutely.
that. I'm going to go against the grain and go with character and person over color or anything else that mattered. But yeah, so Coach Hayden Fry, 20 years as the head coach. Would have liked to see him win at least one Rose Bowl. That would have been nice in his tenure, but still, you can't deny that. I mean, that's to me where it starts and ends.
Yep.
And also just the great stories about Hayden. I mean, the things he would say and the sound bites. I mean, just and some other time we'll talk about those. I've got plenty of good Hayden stories. But second on my list, and this is a little bit of a shock, not a major shock, I'll say surprise. And there's lots of Iowa men's basketball coaches who had success, but I've got to put on here Coach Lute Olson.
Good choice.
And most people know Lute Olson for his time at Arizona. Undeniable, Hall of Famer, stud, national championship winner. But he began his major coaching tenure at Iowa. And Coach Lute Olson put Iowa basketball back on the map. They had glory years during the 50s and 60s, went a little bit dormant, but he's the one who really brought them back. As Iowa men's basketball coach, 9 seasons at Iowa, 5 straight NCAA tournament appearances, one Big Ten one Big Ten title, blah, blah, blah. And he did take them to the Final Four in 1980. So a complete turnaround very quickly. And also, he is the one who is most responsible for getting Carver Hawkeye Arena built. He basically told the upper echelon at Iowa, you build me a legitimate arena, I will win you a national championship. And people thought he was going to stay at Iowa, very tenured. The guy at one point was offered the Kentucky job while at Iowa. Then he turned that down to stay at Iowa. To shun Kentucky, stay at Iowa, but then later on kind of bolt for Arizona. A little bit strange, but that kind of then showed at the time, hey, this guy is committed to Iowa basketball. But yeah, he really kind of ushered in the golden age, the next golden age of Iowa basketball that I remember as a child in the 80s. The really good teams that Iowa had throughout the rest of the decade all kind of came back to what Coach Lute Olson established there. Going back to what you said about Coach Earlywine, that's where the foundation was set. So I got Coach Lute Olson on my Iowa Mount Rushmore as well. All right.
Very interesting.
Any questions about those? Any questions about Hayden or Lute Olson?
I had to read up on Lute. I knew a little bit about him from back in the day, but I didn't know to what level, but I didn't choose him.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people wouldn't. They would maybe choose another Iowa men's basketball coach, which maybe he still might be on my Mount Rushmore. Stay tuned. But yeah, just his success, once again, winning the 1997 national title at Arizona, the numerous Pac-12 titles he won there. I think they made the tournament all but 2 or 3 years while he was at Arizona, but still got his start at Iowa. So props to Coach Lute Olson. So that's who I got, number 2 on my Mount Rushmore.
There you go.
All right.
That's 2 good ones.
All right. So, Charlie, let's go back to you. Who was maybe your honorable mention? Maybe your first out, the person who just missed out the first cut?
For me, for Mizzou, I say it's got to be Dan Devine.
Okay.
I was torn between him and 2 other coaches. So I had 3 coaches that it was so hard pressed to choose. The guy won. He had a 704 winning percentage at Mizzou. You know, we know what he's done as an athletic director, you know, other programs. You know, he bled football like we do. I mean, he loved college football. Hands down, loved the game. A huge college football fan, just like we. So I was like, it's kind of heartbreaking, but I did not choose him.
Okay. All right. But who were a couple other people who were in discussion?
Well, for me, you know,
or maybe who was your honorable mention? Who did you end up deciding would be 5th next in line?
Dan Devine.
Dan Devine. Okay. I'm sorry. I thought you meant that was
no.
some other buddy.
No.
Okay. He was the one that was, okay, your honorable mention.
Yeah.
Excuse me there.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Yeah, I was a little bit caught up. I got lost in your
You're fine.
eyes there for a
And
second.
then I guess another one would have to be Pretty Boy Quinn Snyder.
Ah, yeah.
You know, he did pretty good.
Love him or hate him.
But here's the thing was, you know, he changed Mizzou basketball as a whole. But did he have what Norm put in place to make it easier for him? Or was he that good of a coach that just kind of, you know, kind of plateaued, reached his peak?
I don't know. That's a tough one. That's tough. But, I mean, yeah, the guy's coaching in the NBA now, I think. With the Utah Jazz, I think he's coaching. Yeah. So he still has a legitimate coaching career. So, okay. Yeah. So Dan Devine is honorable mention. Okay. And we'll see who I had in a little bit. So let's go ahead and finish up your coaching Mount Rushmore. Who are the last 2 you got for Missouri athletics?
Well, the next one's got to be Brian Smith, wrestling coach. You know, he, for the 20-plus years he's been there, he's 295, 101, and 3 for 746 winning percentage. I know he doesn't have the clout that maybe somebody that we might mention or I might mention later for Iowa for the same thing. But, you know, it's Missouri. You know, he's been consecutive coach of the year from 2012 to 2017. 19 seasons above 500. 27 All-Americans, and he's got 8 national champions.
Yeah.
But the impressive thing is, as a whole, you don't hear nothing negative about his program. In 20-plus years, nothing negative. They're all academically, their GPAs are asinine. You know, they're all 3.5 and higher, 3.6, 3.7s. I mean, he's establishing, he's turning boys that come into the program, and they leave a man. You know, they're respectful. It's amazing what he does with these kids.
Yep. Okay. All right, so Coach Brian Smith. Okay. Who's your 4th? Who's the last inductee?
Well, this one is going to be
make Mount Rushmore
a little bit odd. I'm hard pressed. I could not, for the life of me, distinguish between 2. So I have a 4A and 4B.
Oh, it sounds like it could be the easy way out, but go and explain. Let's see here.
So
let's see what you got.
Don Farrow, obviously. I mean, obviously, you know, he coached 190 games for Mizzou. Offensive genius. What you talk about. Look at the NFL, like when the Rams won the Super Bowl, the greatest show on turf. That offense that Mike Martz put in play was a semi-variation that he learned from studying Farrow's playbook. So he opened it up and did that. So, you know, offensive genius. And then when he took over the program, he brought them out of debilitating debt. They were ready to fold. Yep. Nobody was coming to the games. It was a sinking ship. And he turned them around and made them relevant and started putting money back in. And he was the one to kind of turn the page and start setting the foundation for other stuff to build on.
Yep.
And then the next one, I got to go with my boy Gary Pinkel.
Gary Pinkel, okay.
You know, he's the winningest coach. He did a lot for people. He did a lot for the town, the university. He still does stuff. You know, he's always there. You see him on the sidelines talking to helping with recruiting. He's talking to all the people. It's good. You know, he's 117-71. So he's got a 622. He's the winningest coach in Mizzou history. And, you know, I think he's going to be a hard one to beat. But we'll see. Okay. But what he did with a lot of players and the adversity that he faced, especially there those last couple of years with the tutoring scandal and some of the other things, I think he would have stayed a little bit longer. But, you know, there's some stuff that kind of was coming out that it was time to maybe him step aside. And, you know, he did have the cancer diagnosis.
Yes, he did.
So, you know, I can't, you know, I mean, he still got a special place in my heart for college football.
Okay, excellent. I got to agree. I got Coach Brian Smith. I'm an Iowa fan. I love the wrestling aspect of this. 23 years, like you said, as a head coach. And you're right. It's like still they are consistently top 10, top 15 finishers, but they're still flying so under the radar, which isn't always a bad thing because, like you said, you don't hear any bad pub about it.
No.
So I absolutely got Brian Smith too.
And this year we got a national champion.
Yeah, another one.
So
and very, very quietly. It's just so consistently quiet. Just stay the course. That's why I've got Brian Smith as well. Okay. All right. I'll get back to I got a couple disagreements, but I'm gonna wait to unveil my last two. How that sound?
Sounds
okay.
Good.
Anything else to say about Gary Pinkel or Don Farrow?
You know, I wish Don Farrow could have stayed a little bit longer because I do love Gary Pinkel. I think Farrow had something going. I'd like to see what he could have done if he could have had a little bit more time.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, excellent. I mean, your list, it's tough to disagree with. I've got 2 out of the 4. So you and I are pretty much on the same page. I mean, 50%'s not bad. So, yeah, I mean, you presented a very good argument. Feel free, like, share, subscribe, comment. Let Charlie know what you think about Mount Rushmore of coaches. Let him know, and we'll see what you think. But, yeah, that's a good list. There's no doubt about it. Okay? Now, as far as what I would have added, I had Gary Pinkel as my honorable mention. I've got Dan Devine as one of the 4 coaches, is what I've got. Because he hired Norm Stewart as the AD, which is great. But I've got this story about Dan Devine, and maybe you've heard this.
I have.
Yeah, and I've heard it from 2 different sources. I've heard it from somebody vocally, and then something that was like a typed article about him being a germaphobe, which nowadays that's not a big deal. Right. We understand that's not an affliction by any means. There's nothing wrong with being clean. I mean, hell, if I would take 2 or 3 showers a day if I could, because that's just, I feel better when I'm clean. But at that time, it was something that would have been looked down upon. So I could see why somebody would want to be private about it. But you hear these stories about Dan Devine on recruiting trips feeling the need to be cleansed, how he would take showers at recruits' houses kind of unannounced, just kind of disappear and let his assistant coaches kind of take over. Have you heard those stories too?
Yeah, yeah.
I heard that. I'm like, what? It's wacky, but I understand that need. Hey, it's been, and I guess the assistant coach, whoever's with him, could kind of deflect it, say, the coach, it was a long trip here. He wants to freshen up. But he just would start taking showers without asking.
You know, but somebody's saying, too, that they were saying he did that because in his mind, it also showed us a sense of comfort.
Yeah, and I can see that
if you're that comfortable with this, that he can take a shower at your house, you're just part of the family, then why wouldn't he come and play for him?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, do you think he brought his own towels? You think you'd have to? Or say, hey, can I borrow a bar of soap?
The toiletries, the soap, the shampoo, the towels.
You have to. I mean, I think it's wacky, but it's totally fine. It gives actually a lot of credit to. I think it's hilarious. I think it's entertaining. But imagine that if he's taking a shower instead of a bath instead of a shower. Yep. Hey, son, come on in here, and he's scrubbing away. So what do you think you want to major in, son? I don't know. Let's think. But yeah, so I got Dan Devine on my Mount Rushmore of Missouri, and I've got current coach Larissa Anderson of women's softball.
You know, she's doing some good stuff. She really is.
And Norm Stewart, Brian Smith. So that's my Missouri coaches Mount Rushmore. Okay? So we're close, though. We're right there.
We're right there.
So let me go ahead and break out my last 2 Iowa coaches of Mount Rushmore. And just to make, I'm sure you had Hayden Fry. Was he on your, or was he not, for Iowa?
Yeah.
Coaches. He was. Okay, hey, I didn't think
you
said
didn't let me
that.
get there yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Well, I remember I say it when you could say, oh, yeah, I had
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I was just going to say,
okay.
For me, what blew my mind was just that coaching tree. The names that just kept going on and on and on that are the who's who of college football today. It's like, if it was the Mafia, he's by far, he's the Gambinos.
Yeah. Yeah, he's Vito Corleone, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
He's definitely not Fredo Corleone. Ain't no doubt about that. Okay, so let's go let's do my honorable mention first. That's how we're doing this. So my honorable mention, there were lots of candidates that it came down to. These are the folks that just missed the cut. I could have went with former head basketball coach Dr. Tom Davis. He's the winningest coach in Iowa basketball history, led them to 9 NCAA tournaments in 13 years. Not bad. He can never really get out of the first round. That's why they basically fired him. He's 9-0, a perfect record in the opening round, but he only made, I think, 2 Sweet 16s. It's funny because they fired him for not being able to ever advance, but the last Sweet 16 that Iowa basketball made was 1999, which was Dr. Tom Davis's final year at Iowa. So the irony there, right? Also, current coaches, Lisa Bluter, women's basketball, the all-time winning leader at Iowa women's history. Coach Kirk Ferentz, present football coach. Former women's coach, Vivian Stringer. She took Iowa to a Final Four. Since then, she moved on to coach at Rutgers. She's taken them to 2 Final Fours, including 1 championship game. So those are the folks that just missed out. And this was tough for me. But my honorable mention, going back to the mid-50s, head football coach Forrest Evanevsky, during his time. Now, his time as the Iowa football coach wasn't very long, but what he accomplished there, it's hard to say this guy doesn't at least deserve some potential to join Mount Rushmore. He's the only Iowa football coach to win the Rose Bowl, which he did twice, 1957, 1959. In that 5-year stretch from 1956 to 1960, they won 2 Big Ten titles, 2 Rose Bowl victories, a share of the national title in 1958, an overall record 37-8-2. Probably, you could say, arguably the greatest 5-year stretch in Iowa football history. So I got to have Coach Forrest. He's my honorable mention.
Okay.
So my final 2 who made the cut to be on Iowa coaching Mount Rushmore, we've got number 3, big surprise, Coach Judith Davidson. That's right. She was formerly the coach of the Iowa women's field hockey team. And when you look at, if you're an Iowa fan, once again, probably one of the most consistent programs, wrestling and Iowa women's field hockey. They are good and ranked every single year. She's the one that really kind of set the foundation, but kind of kept them going when she took over. Her time as field hockey coach, 10 seasons as the head coach, 5 Big Ten titles, 6 straight NCAA tournament berths, a Final Four, 2 runner-up finishes, a national title, which is Iowa's only in program history. They've been so close so many times. But after she stepped away, and this is kind of getting back to what she left in her recruiting, after she stepped away as head coach, over the next 3 years, they finished runner-up and made 2 Final Fours. So right there, it's kind of hard to go against what she kind of took over and what she made it better moving forward. So I got Coach Judith Davidson for the field hockey. And now the last one, this is a slam dunk. I'm sure my man here is going to agree with me because quite frankly, and I'm not just saying this as being a Homer Simpson of Iowa, but you could arguably say that he is one of, if not the best coach in NCAA history based on what he accomplished in any sport. I'm talking with the great Dan Gable.
Not to be confused with Stan Gable, quarterback from Adams College.
That's true, yes. Dan Gable, Iowa men's wrestling legend, a wrestler himself at Interstate Iowa State. It's crazy how he was a wrestler for the Cyclones, but then took the Iowa head coaching job. It's kind of ironic there, too, between, that Cy-Hawk rivalry. But his time as the head coach, and these numbers, I had to do an old double take to make sure I got this right. 21 seasons as the head coach for the Iowa wrestling team, 15 NCAA titles, including 9 straight, and 21 for 21 Big Ten titles. 21 Big Ten titles in 21 years. The guy has a statue outside of Carver Hawkeye as a wrestling coach. I mean, those numbers right there just jump off the page.
Oh, yeah.
And on top of that, he also was an Olympic gold medalist representing our great nation. And he also, just recently, under former President Trump, he received the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest honor a civilian in the United States of America can receive. So Dan Gable, absolute slam dunk, and I'm thinking, to me, the greatest coach in Iowa program history of anything. I mean, I think even without hesitation, to me. So I rest my case. That is my Iowa coaches Mount Rushmore. Let me know, like, dislike, comment. Let me know what you think. Charlie, over to you. What do you think?
So, for me, you talk about Hayden Fry. He's on my list. And I have Kirk Ferentz on my list.
Oh, okay.
There's been different things, does he push his athletes too hard? The whole rhabdo problem, strength and conditioning.
Yep.
But he also has a personal touch. When they built that children's hospital, him and his wife donated $10 million.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. It is.
I mean, now obviously he's got deep pockets.
Yes.
But to do that, to give back, because it's a personal thing because of his grandchild.
Yes.
If I believe his grandchild passed away.
Correct? Yeah, that personal connection. He's
that
like,
affliction,
cancer. Yep.
I want to give back, and that's huge. And now the tradition where they all wave. And that's huge. And I think that is something, an impact he has in the community. And he's slowly getting it done. Slowly.
Yep.
And I think if he stays for a few more years, he might top the list as the winningest coach in Iowa in history.
He actually already is. He passed Hayden Fry last season, I believe, if not the previous season.
Yeah.
But he's been there a little bit longer than Hayden was, though, too. And plus, I look at that. This is why I couldn't put him even honorable mention, because of the things that's happened under his watch that I absolutely disagree with. But, I mean, he's been there longer than Hayden. And obviously he took over when the program was in much better shape than Hayden did. And back during Hayden's day, they didn't play 12 games regular season too. Right. So that's why I didn't have Kurt even making the honorable mention.
Well, for me, that $10 million donation to pediatric research stuff, that overcomes a 20-year-old boy having to go to emergency room for rhabdo in his legs or whatever because he's worked too hard. And so for me, I have Tom Davis.
You got Tom Davis. Okay, Dr. Tom, you got him. Okay.
He was 17 years. He's got a .658 winning percentage.
Yep.
17 years as a head basketball coach. It's pretty good.
Yep.
Especially, you got to think when he was there, that's when it started becoming a big business. Mm-hmm. If it's losing a home.
Yep.
And, he stuck around for a while.
Yep. And the one thing about Dr. Tom, I loved him. Like I said, he would win games. All he did was win, but he could never really seal the deal. He could never really close the book. Yes, he took one Iowa team to the Elite Eight, but that hands down was probably the best Iowa team ever in history. Kind of going back more to Lute Olson and then Coach Raveling, who took over for a small period of time during those two coaching tenures. He kept the good recruiting going. So he couldn't really get it done with their best team, period, of all time. That's why I couldn't even have Dr. Tom make an honorable mention. I just couldn't. Yeah. I know that's really going to ruffle a lot of feathers. I know that. It probably will. But that's why I'm saying that. I just couldn't do it.
It's understandable.
Yeah, I just couldn't do it. All right. Excellent. So that's Mount Rushmore of coaches. Now the real fun begins. Another Batman reference there. The awful one with Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee, just awful. What was Batman Forever? Is that what the hell it was called?
Yeah, something like that.
It's like one of those we don't speak of. It was just so bad. I mean, Jim Carrey as the Riddler. Love you, Jim, but not your role. The real game begins. Yeah, that's... Sorry, I couldn't resist, folks. You know me. You should know this by now. All right, so let's get down to athletes. This is going to be interesting. This is going to be the fun one. So, I'm a gentleman, so let's go ahead and see. Let me get my papers in order here. So let's go ahead and see who, Charlie, who are your first two athletes on the Missouri Mount Rushmore?
So I'm going to go with Roger Worley.
Roger Worley.
He had 14 seasons in the NFL. He's a 7-time Pro Bowl. Mm-hmm. If you look at what he's done and the teams he's been in, he's been a huge, defender. Mm-hmm. He's inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2007. So there's been a lot of players in Mizzou that go pro, but not very many have gone to the Hall of Fame. And I think that says about his character and his ability.
Okay.
And the second one is going to be Steve Stepanovich. basketball player. You know, he played in 403 games and he averaged 31.2 points per game.
What was the time frame? Was he an old boy?
He was older. If I'm going to remember, it was in his 70s.
Okay, so not too old.
No, he was
before
just
our time.
That long, lanky, you know, before power forwards, like that lanky center that would just play post and do his thing. And yeah, it was just a stud.
And that's impressive itself, averaging that much. But think if he was a guard before the 3-point line too. Oh. But just being a center, yeah. Nowadays, most centers can step back and pop it. Back then, maybe not, but let's say he could. And I don't know. Let's say he had a good outside jump shot. Let's say you could knock down a couple trays a game. It'd be even more. That's even kind of sliding him a little bit.
Yeah.
That's impressive. Okay. All right. One of those guys that wasn't really even on my radar. No disrespect there, Missouri fans, but yeah, that's great. That's okay. Excellent. Thanks, Roger Worley and Stefanovich. Okay. All right. Excellent. All right. So I am going to unveil my first two, and I think these two most everyone would agree, or they could agree to disagree. We'll have to wait and see. I've got to go with the obvious one. It's got to be Niall Kinnick. I mean, it has to be. I could have saved that for number 4, but I think that'd be a letdown. Like, oh, I wonder who's number 4 is going to be. You would know who it's going to be. Yeah. So that one isn't really a big surprise. But Niall Kinnick, I mean, 1939 became Iowa's one and only Heisman Trophy winner. I mean, the stadium currently is named in his honor for what he did. I mean, his statue stands outside the gates of Kinnick Stadium. It looks larger than life. I mean, also the tradition that we love, we celebrate, the pageantry of college football. Every home game, they have that excerpt from his 1939 Heisman acceptance speech. It gives me chills just thinking about it, making the little hairs stick up. It's just become a pregame tradition now. You know, you watch that up on the screen and you just, man, it's just so moving as Iowa fans, but also his service to the armed forces. I mean, guy could have went on to the NFL, but shortly after his time at Iowa, World War II breaks out. What does he do? He enlists in the Navy. He's a naval aviator from 1941 to 1941 to 1943, excuse me, a little blah there. But he served in the U.S. Navy as a pilot, but unfortunately met his death early, perished in a plane crash during a training exercise in 1943. So what else could he have become at the next level or as a soldier? We'll never know.
Right.
But hands down, Niall Kinnick, to me, kind of like Hayden Fry, that's kind of where it starts and ends as Iowa football. It just is. So, Niall Kinnick. Next one, recently, I got to go with, the brow. I got to go with center Iowa basketball player Luka Garza. I mean, just recently left Iowa now 2 seasons ago. His accomplishments, he's the all-time leading scorer in Iowa basketball history. 2-time Big Ten Player of the Year, back-to-back years. 2-time first-team All-American. And he was the Naismith Player of the Year 2021 season. Iowa's only Iowa player to ever accomplish that, being National Player of the Year at Iowa. Not like we're Kentucky or Kansas or North Carolina or Duke. So Luka Garza, to me, absolutely slam dunk. His number 55 has already been retired and is hanging from the rafters inside Carver Hawkeye Arena. So I got Luka Garza right there. Leading scorer 2,306 points. Got it done. And that's really basically only over 2 years. His first 2 years at Iowa, he was okay. But how he exploded his junior year and then backed it up as a senior, came back against going to the draft, really impressive. Really impressive.
And I have neither of those two on my list.
You don't have Niall or Luke. Okay, great. And blasphemy, how dare you? No, that's not the way it is. This is good. This is why I'm glad, but we'll get to it in a little bit. Okay.
So all right. I'm going to go with mine.
All right.
Let me give mine.
Let's go ahead and hear your honorable mention. First,
my
then
honorable
your last
mention.
Two. Yep, let's hear your honorable mention and then your last two. Let's see what you got.
I'm going to go with Bob Sanders as an honorable mention.
Ooh.
Just because.
Big hit Bob.
I mean, the dude was all muscle. He was 5'8", like 210. just ripped, huge muscles and hit like a tank. And he played, and you got to represent the little guys. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So, I mean, just watching him. I mean, anybody coming across the middle, you knew that he was gonna light your ass up.
Oh gosh.
I mean, and he would try to hurt you, and that's why his career wasn't as long, because he could always get hurt because he would play like he's 6'5" and was fearless.
He would play like a man on a mission,
And
reckless abandon.
Then another one I got to say got thrown in too.
And this is just honorable mention, obviously.
I was
Okay.
just
All right.
mentioning
the guys you were thinking about.
People you're gonna laugh at me on this one, but when I was watching the NFL football
Mm-hmm.
during this time frame, and it's a teammate of Bob Sanders.
Okay, I think I know where you're
When
going.
they
with
needed a
this.
first down, who did they go to?
Oh, I think his name was City in Texas, right?
Dallas Clark.
Dallas
baby.
Clark.
Dallas Clark.
Yep. And all you Peyton Manning fans, Zach, brother, I love you. But there's no doubt Dallas Clark made Peyton look a lot better. I'm
Absolutely.
sorry, he did. And all, yeah, we'll talk about Peyton Manning some other time. But obviously, some of us, not everybody, is a Peyton Manning fan. Okay, sorry.
I'd rather be Peyton Manning than some of the other ones.
That's true. That is true. Okay.
First team ballot.
All right. So who are your first two on Missouri?
So
Who
I'm
you
gonna go
got?
out a different order.
Who you got?
So for one, I'm gonna go with
Missouri.
for Missouri.
Yeah, because remember we do 2 and 2, right?
Okay.
Actually, no, you already went. You gave your.
Yeah, I gave
okay.
mine.
So how about your honorable mention for Missouri athletes? Who you got?
My honorable mention Missouri athlete for me has got to go back to Justin Smith.
Okay.
He was on campus at the same time when I was around there, and he was larger than life, just a big dude, always working out. And to see his career, what he did, he did not miss a start from 2002 to 2011, and for a defensive end, taking that much of a pounding, and just shows his durability and resilience to work out and stay in shape and to put it to there.
Okay. All right. Who else you got for athletes? Who you got?
So for athletes,
Yep.
I've got. Well, one, if this is a given, this is probably my number 4, but I'm gonna save my last one as a kind of homer
Like
pick.
the surprise. Okay.
So Max Scherzer,
Ah, okay.
you've got to go with him. I mean, he's got a 191 and 97 record. He's got a career 3.16 ERA, 3,026 strikes, 8-time All-Star, World Series champ, 3-time Cy Young, 3 times he was the National League strikeout leader. He's got 2 no-hitters. He's tied for 5 people have got the most strikeouts in the game at 20, and he's got the most consecutive seasons of 250 Ks or more at 5 years straight.
Absolutely. And plus, he's got 2 different colored eyes. I mean, come on. I mean, who can match that? I'm
but
telling you.
Look at those stats. That is probably
No offense there, Max.
by far. I mean, yeah, that's just a stud.
You can't.
Absolute stud.
And he's homegrown too, right?
Homegrown.
Homegrown guy.
Chesterfield, Missouri.
Yep. Homegrown.
And then
All
my
right.
4th pick. Now this is
you
gonna
got?
be my homer pick.
Okay.
It's gotta be Chase Daniel. I know everybody's gonna laugh and they're gonna beat me up on this one, but I'm fine with that. The guy's been in the league since 2009. He's made $37.8 million as a backup. If you look at how many times he started, that's essentially $7.5 million per start. Props for him. I don't care.
And his agent too. That's
Oh,
great.
if you would come to me and tell me, hey,
agent.
Charlie, you can go to NFL and be a career backup and you're going to make almost $40 million, I'm going to say, where do I sign?
Yep.
Why not? You have no pressure.
None whatsoever.
No pressure. And you're getting paid. Every Monday when they get paid, he's taking that money to the bank just like everybody else.
Beautiful.
Props to him. And I know it might be a homer pick, and I'm okay with that.
It's not. I love that. That's a good list. That is a tough list. This is a tough exercise, isn't it?
I like it. I like it.
The ones that I've agreed with, and I'll unveil who I had that you were missing. I had Chase Daniel, absolutely. I saw a really funny GIF recently. It's referring to Scarface, like in the basement when they're counting the money with Cytobomb. It's a picture of Chase Daniel, all the money. You know, that's the NFL. I love that. So I had Chase Daniel. He was on my Mount Rushmore of Missouri.
Sweet.
And my honorable mention was Max Scherzer. So 2 out of the 5 you mentioned, I'm in total agreement with you.
There you go.
Okay? Excellent.
Very nice.
So my last 2, and this was tough for me, and I had to make a major adjustment after what happened last week. I was telling Charlie before we came on air. I didn't tell him who or what, but I had to rethink this just a couple days ago. So everything was just blown up on this list. So I'm going to start with the honorable mention that I had for Iowa athletics, or athletes, I should say, is I did have her prior to last week on Mount Rushmore. And I have said last episode on record to you, the Black and Gold family, and I've told Charlie several times about current player Caitlin Clark. Iowa native, homegrown, 5-star recruit, the biggest recruit ever in Iowa basketball history, women's or men's. Here she is as a sophomore. She has led the nation in back-to-back years scoring. As a freshman, as a sophomore this past season, bettered that number and also led the nation this past season in assists. Led Iowa women to both a Big Ten regular season and Big Ten tournament title. But I would have put, and I think she will eventually, if we come back to this and do this 5 years from now, I think she will be on Mount Rushmore. Because I've said, I believe she will be the greatest Iowa athlete in history. I still believe that, but this is why I can't put her on Mount Rushmore now, is at this point, what else do you have to do? I thought she was going to be a shoo-in to win Player of the Year, and she's like, what else do you have to do? You lead in 2 major categories, scoring and assists. You led your team to a title. You're a sophomore. You play at Iowa. That's not a basketball powerhouse, but she did not win the Naismith Trophy for Player of the Year. If she would have done that, I think right now she would be on Mount Rushmore. But because of that, I can't put her on it. I just can't. I want to, but I can't do it because of that. That's what I had to switch. And I'm absolutely disgusted that she didn't win Player of the Year. I don't, it's like, what else do you have to do? I don't get it. I know you don't keep up on Iowa women's basketball, but Iowa fans, you know what I'm saying. This girl is absolutely amazing. The fastest player to 1,500 points in Iowa basketball history. She is going to break the scoring record of both Luka Garza and Megan Gustafson, who's the Iowa women's all-time leading scorer. She will do that, unless she leaves early for the WNBA, but I don't think most people do, or if she gets hurt, heaven forbid. But she will be the greatest athlete ever in Iowa program history. She will, of any Iowa program, she will be. But I can't put her on there yet. I just can't because of that. It's unfortunate. I hate to say these terms, but Aaliyah Boston, she won Player of the Year from South Carolina. They won the national title. I hate to say these words because they reflect kind of on a very dark time in our nation's history, the 2020 election. Stop the steal. It was stolen. It was from Caitlin Clark. Sorry, I'm off my soapbox now. So Caitlin Clark, actually, because of that, she is not my honorable mention. She was right there. Other athletes I had that were under consideration, Chuck Long, Heisman Trophy quarterback, runner-up, he's got to be there. Reggie Hangtime Roby, the punter. We're Iowa football. I mean, how Iowa is that? You know, punting is winning. I got to get a shirt like that. That's great. Punting is winning. I love it. Megan Gustafson, who I just mentioned, 2,800 points in her Iowa career. Yeah. That's sick. That's better than 30 points average a game. Mm-hmm. But Caitlin Clark is going to pass her. I'm just saying, she will. Also, I've got one of my favorites, Tim Dwight. I mean, he was an All-American, a 4-time Big Ten track champion, a two-sport athlete. But my honorable mention has got to be Spencer Lee, the Iowa wrestler, who this year, he only wrestled 3 matches, then had an ACL injury. He sat out. But because of what he's accomplished, right now he is 3 for 3. Spencer Lee is a 3-time NCAA title winner in wrestling. Next year he comes back. He is eligible. If he goes 4 for 4, that'll be the only wrestler in Iowa history to be a 4-time champion. And he'll be, right now there's only 4 individuals who can say that in history. So he'll be the 5th to join the 4-timers club. So Spencer Lee is the honorable mention to me for what he's already accomplished and what he's looking to accomplish next season. If he does that, then he very well could be on Mount Rushmore too, if he becomes a 4-time champion.
And that's interesting you had him, because I had a guy on my Iowa Mount Rushmore, Ed Benock. or Benach.
Okay.
He's a wrestler.
Yep.
3-time NCAA All Big Ten champ.
Yep.
1983 Athlete of the Year. He's got 4 Big Ten titles. 141, 9-1 is his record.
Yeah.
And he's a 4-time All-American. He's got the record for the Hawkeye at 73 pins in a career. And he won the gold medal in the 84 Olympics.
Yep. And this is good. That's a good lead into number 3 on Mount Rushmore in no real order. I'm just saying my third because it is Iowa wrestling. It was hard to pick one. I had to have one, but I did not pick your boy. I went with Barry Davis. Not Barry Lincoln, Barry Davis. Gotta love Adam Sandler. So Barry Davis, a 3-time NCAA champion at Iowa. There's 49 of those in wrestling history who are 3-time winners, 7 in Iowa program history, so that's a lot. But he holds the Iowa record for all-time most victories and victories in a season. A 2-time Olympian, won the silver, not the gold, but I give the nod to Barry Davis. Welcome, you're on Mount Rushmore. That's the wrestler that I chose.
Good pick.
But Spencer Lee, if he wins next season, like I said, we do this again in a few years, it could look a little bit different from an Iowa side, to me anyway. All right, now 4th. This is where the big change happened. I moved Caitlin Clark off Mount Rushmore. I moved Spencer Lee up, and that opened the door. I was really close to putting him on Mount Rushmore before, but this was a sign. It was divine light. You might know him better as George Papadopoulos from Webster, or you definitely will know him as Mongo, not really who, but a what. I've got football player, actor, and professional wrestler Alex Karras. I've got Alex Karras on Mount Rushmore because not just what he accomplished, I'll go through that next, but we're Iowa. Who do we put out into the NFL? Tight ends and linemen. Whether it's O-line or D-line, he was really the first person that started that lineage of line play at Iowa. This is what he accomplished while at his time at Iowa. Did Alex Karras? Who said pro football player. He ended up having a very good NFL career. Inducted into the Hall of Fame just a couple of years ago.
After he passed, actually.
After he passed away. Yep. Unfortunately, a little bit too late, but still deserving. I think a
Absolutely.
7-time Pro Bowler. I mean, his numbers, like, why was he not inducted during his living years? I don't understand that. He's a Hall of Famer. 2-time first-team All-American as a defensive lineman at Iowa. He won the Outland Trophy while at Iowa, the best interior lineman in the nation. Runner-up, that's right, runner-up in the Heisman Trophy race as a defensive lineman.
You won't see that again.
And that will never happen ever
Never.
again. Unless
Never.
it's something that is so atmospheric, such a number that can't be denied, that will never happen ever again. That will never happen again. To be runner-up, said Pro Football Hall of Fame, and plus you just gotta love him as Mongo. I mean, come on. Alex Karras, like most of us, like Mongo, was a pawn in game of life. I mean, Alex Karras, because of everything he accomplished, actor, professional wrestler, which is great. I didn't know that until I read up on it. He had a very small pro wrestling career. Football player, so Alex Karras, I think he has to be on Mount Rushmore. Maybe even more than Caitlin Clark or Spencer Lee, maybe. That's why when that happened, I had to put him on there. I just did. I think he is more than deserving as one of the first really great Iowa linemen. Is what I've got.
I got him on my list.
So that's my Iowa Mount Rushmore for athlete. You got of athletes, and you agree with Alex Karras.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like I said, we already talked about Ed. But 2 other people that stand out to me were entertainment. The next one that I've got, Merton Hanks.
Oh yeah, the Birdman.
Yes. You know,
the old Birdman.
he's a 4-time Pro Bowler. You know, 1995, he was Defensive Back of the Year, Super Bowl champ, 503 tackles, 33 INTs.
Yeah.
You know, but that dance, the way he get that head whipping, it's like
it was all neck. It was sick.
He must not have vertebrae.
Oh.
Because it was like his head would hit his back and then his stomach, his back. I mean, it was just flopping. Crazy.
The Birdman. Yeah.
So that was awesome. That was entertaining to watch in the NFL. And the next one, he's a basketball player, and he played with the GOAT. And I mean the true GOAT. I'm not talking about your boy
GOAT.
LeBron. I'm talking about MJ.
Oh, okay.
BJ Armstrong.
BJ Armstrong. Okay.
He's got to be on there. He's won 3 titles, 7,320 points, 1,321 assists, 2,479 rebounds.
Yep.
And those could have been different if he wasn't playing with Michael.
Yeah.
It could have been higher or it could have been lower. We'll never know. But you know what? You look back, when I was a kid, the Chicago Bulls, I had posters everywhere. Loved that team, and he was right there in the mix of all that.
Yep, it was. And growing up in Northwest Illinois, we were Bulls fans. You just were, and who didn't? Even if you didn't root for the Bulls, you rooted for MJ.
Oh, absolutely.
And when I remember watching that year's draft, I forget what year BJ graduated, but I remember having the draft on and knowing he was still available. When the Bulls called his name, it was like a slam dunk. This is even another reason to root for the Bulls. Yeah. It just made it even more rewarding to root for them at that time when BJ joined that squad, the greatest of all time. It did.
No.
Okay. Interesting.
We've had some pretty good stuff. I like this. We've got some that are similar and some that are a little different.
For Mizzou, the athletes I had, I agree. Chase Daniel, honorable mention. I had Max Scherzer. I had Doug Smith.
There you go.
Was on. I know you mentioned him earlier in the episode. I had Doug Smith as one of the Mount Rushmore figures, the basketball player. I did have Don Farrow, but I had not as a coach, but him being a three-sport letter winner, a three-sport athlete at Missouri, head football coach, later on the AD. So I had him Mount Rushmore as an athlete, not a coach. There's only difference. And I had Sophie Cunningham.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Missouri basketball all-time leader in scoring. I think also free throws made, first in field goals, made field goals, something like that. Just undeniable stats from Sophia Cunningham, too. So that's who I had.
There you go.
For Missouri Athletics Mount Rushmore. But, man, what an episode. This was a lot of fun.
And we're not far off from each other.
And we're not.
We all had good points. And like I said, I picked some people for maybe my entertainment's sake. Mm-hmm. Who's going to pick Merton Hanks? But I remember as a kid, watching football.
But how does that make you feel? It's like right now we have.
It's like I feel like I've won a time machine, and it's awesome.
But we have like total 180s. Merton Hanks with the elongated neck, and my boy Charlie with no neck. It's like what? I don't know. Were you jealous of that?
I'm jealous. I'm jealous.
But yeah, this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this episode. I know we went a little bit long. I've been trying to make these 40, 45 minutes, but there was so much to discuss. Thank you for being with us, your attention. We treasure, we appreciate all you do for the channel. Like, share, subscribe, comment. I know a lot of you are going to have a lot to say in regards to our picks, who was worthy, who we missed, who we nailed. Let us know, but I think we're definitely going to have to do a Mount Rushmore just for Iowa and Missouri football before football season starts. That would be a fun episode, too.
And why don't you go ahead and put your go ahead and give us your Mount Rushmore.
Absolutely.
Let's compare. Let's make this a big social.
Yes.
We can all compare. We can comment on who you guys put down and vice versa. We appreciate you guys watching and listening, and doing all this stuff. And without you guys, this wouldn't be happening.
Yeah,
so
this
thank
is
you.
Great. Thank you. This is a real pleasure for both of us. I say that every chance I get. Thank you. Let's continue to get the word out there, and thank you for everything that you've done. I think definitely before football season starts, I think we should have another joint episode. We talked about this before coming on air. We're going to draw straws. One of us is going to represent the Alabama Crimson Tide. The other is going to represent the Bison. That's how they say it correctly up in Fargo. The Bison of North Dakota State. And we're going to debate who over the last 10 years has the better dynasty in college football.
Sounds good.
But thank you, Charlie. That was excellent. I appreciate you as always. We appreciate you. And stay tuned. Next couple weeks, expect the next episode. Until then, take care. Peace, love, prosperity, progress. And thank you for joining us on today's very special episode of the Touchdown Black and Gold Vlog. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye now.